Good evening, Adi. How are you?
Great. How are you, Cal?
I'm doing good. It's morning for me. Sun is just barely coming up and sneaking up this morning.
Yeah, good morning to you. It looks like it's going to be a great day. It looks
It's
like a bit sunny outside.
well, it's not raining, so I mean it's Vancouver, so you never know with us. Anyway, sunny one
Yeah,
day and raining like yesterday. I think was like a major rainstorm out here.
really? Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Rain is something
So,
that Vancouver does extremely well. They say you only know the seasons in Vancouver by the temperature of the rain. So it's a it's a joke.
really? So it's so
So,
different in Israel. It's always sunny, even if
always
it's
sunny.
like cold, it's sunny. So
Well,
for us,
well, once
but
all of
but
this lifts, I have to come visit you out there
you
because it sounds like
should, you
your
should.
weather is way better. So,
Yeah.
looks like we have a good crowd. So, why don't we go ahead and get started? So, good morning and or good evening, or depending on where you are in this wonderful world. Um, my name is Kal Sahota. I'm the VP of Possibilities with the HeroX team. For this installment of Coffee with Kal, we're pleased and excited to speaking with Adi Mazor Kairo. How did I do?
Yeah. Very good.
Good,
Very
good.
good.
Welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time to be with us today.
Thanks for inviting me. It's my pleasure.
So, listen, with looking at where we are in the world, when you look at COVID, it will undoubtedly go down in history as not only a large health and economic crisis, but also likely as a driver for innovation, ranging
Right.
from healthcare to manufacturing. And it may incur a little bit counterintuitive to our audience, but a crisis like this creates a far more stimulating environment for change rather than economic stability. It's
Right.
counterintuitive, but that's oftentimes, and we're going to talk a lot more about that during our discussion today.
Right. Right.
So today we're going to be talking about product innovation. I know that's something that you're quite passionate about. Adi and I will be sharing examples, looking at, history, what history has taught us. And what's really important about this, and it's really important you stay tuned, is we're going to set you up for success. We're going to show you how you can take the first initial steps into innovation at no cost. So please make sure you stay tuned. But before we get into that discussion, a quick heads up, we are recording our webinar for today, and the recording will be made available to all of our attendees. And secondly, if any questions show up for you throughout this conversation, we invite you to drop them into the Zoom chat. We will have a Q&A session close to the close of our webinar for today. So with all those little housekeeping items out of the way, so let's get into some introductions. We can offer perhaps just a brief overview of our respective teams and then just a little bit about ourselves. I can certainly get us kicked off. So what's HeroX all about? So HeroX is a crowdsourcing platform that supports organizations of any size with any project to tap into the creativity of the crowd. And unlike other platforms, ours is an uncredentialized open crowd that stretches across 175 countries worldwide, allowing literally anyone to compete, which really levels the playing field for opportunities for all citizens of the world, which is something I'm personally extremely passionate about. So we're also positioned as a social network for innovation, the only place that you can build, grow, and curate your very own crowdsourcing crowd, much like LinkedIn and Facebook operates very much the same. As for who I am and my role with the team, I'm the VP of Possibilities, as I've already mentioned. As to what I'm up to, I get the absolute pleasure of connecting with organizations all over the globe, from Fortune 500, Fortune 50, startups to government organizations such as NASA, speaking to them about their open innovation strategies and really supporting them in leveraging the crowd to discover powerful and incredibly disruptive ideas. My background is actually very much traditional business, 25 years, a career in financial services. I was an executive with an insurance company, a financial advisor for a number of years. I've been a part of the HeroX team now for over 5.5 years. Feels like a lifetime in some ways, and other ways it feels like I just got here. I absolutely love what I do every single day. No one day is the same. As to where in the world I'm located, I live in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, which, as we were talking about at the start of our conversation, it's not raining. So that's a good sign. So
It's a good sign.
Adi, over to you.
Yeah, so I'm Adi Mazor Kario. I've been working with tech companies, helping them innovate and create innovative products for about 20 years. And most of my life and career have been in Israel. So we have lots of tech and big companies and startups in Israel. And we're very known for our ability to create creative, innovative products. I come from design and strategy. And through the years, I've been doing more of innovation, design thinking, design sprints, and business model, canvas, so forth. And through the years, after I tried so many things, and innovation is so hard, and entrepreneurship in general is so hard. So through the years, I've tried everything that is possible with my clients, and I developed a system called Invincible Innovation. And this is what I teach my clients today. So I go through this process, helping them from the beginning to understand what's going on with their market, with what's going on with their clients, and from there getting to great ideas and creating products from there, and actually creating real tangible value for their company as a whole.
Wonderful. Amazing. And again, thank you so very much for being with us here today. Adi and I had a conversation, was it a couple of months ago? And, in that conversation, in that dialogue, there was just so much energy and so much thought that was coming out of it. And we just thought to ourselves, it would be such a pleasure to actually socialize some of this discussion with you all. So I'm really pleased to have the audience with us here today as well. So, let's dive into our discussion for today. So seems like a really great place to start is, given the focus of our discussion, how do you see companies being able to create value through product innovation specifically?
In general, I think what happens in products is we need to persuade people that we have something better than what they currently have. And only in that situation, people will decide, okay, we let go of the current solution or the current product we're using, and we can go off to another product. But since everything is really changing, everybody is more prone to act and maybe seek different solutions. And therefore, these products could create lots of value for these companies. And many companies out there know they need to change, but they're lacking the system, the ability. They don't have the guidance. They don't have the people in order to do so. And even if they had like a part of it, of this process, they could do so much better than what they're doing right now, and making so much more value for their current value for the current customers. So they have customers, and they change their needs. They can answer these needs. So of course they can make much more than what they're doing right now.
So, just talking a little bit more about that. So when we talk about, it almost occurs a little bit that, change oftentimes occurs when it's too painful to not change. And that's, in change management and all of the years of business, that's oftentimes where the trigger lives. So when it comes to product innovation, like where's that trigger? Where's that moment? Is it, when your consumers are coming back to you continually with questions? Is it that you see something that's innovative? Is it an epiphany that you have one morning? Like where is that
Yeah.
trigger, if you will, live?
Yeah, I think in general, companies need to innovate all the time and to think about new services and products all the time. I see that like you talked about insurance, being in insurance, right? So insurance, innovation is like insurance. You're doing it all the time when you don't need it. And once you need it, the competition rise and the market change and there is a crisis, you're geared up. You have the tools in order to really be there, and you have other possibilities because everything is changing right now even faster. But in general, if you don't have these tools, you're missing the competition, right? So we are staying behind. So I see product innovation as always trying and putting small bets all the time, small bets on what could happen. And
Right.
maybe one of your initiatives be so great that it will be what you're doing money out of in the next 5, 10, 20 years. Because what you're doing right now, somebody invented 15, 10, 5, maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah.
This is what you're doing money out of right now. What would happen afterwards when we take into consideration everything will change? You need to do it.
It's interesting. And I would even argue that oftentimes we're coming up with product innovation even particularly specific to technology. Oftentimes there's a technology ready to replace your technology as it's even coming to market. I mean, things are just moving so quickly now. So
Yeah.
when we, so just for the audience, like what does product innovation look like? Like maybe there's like a
Yeah.
handful of examples you can
Yeah.
share that might really resonate.
Sure. So I think that a great example could be Amazon. You know, it's a great example. Amazon started as a bookstore, right? And they grew to be the biggest store ever. And they have so many additional things that they're doing. They're doing cloud. They're doing, and now they're going to do health. They're doing everything in general, right? So it's like they started from a specific solution and they grew from there. And it's like a tree with lots of branches. So
Mm,
each one of these initiatives is a product. Amazon Prime is a product for the store, but it's different, right? It started from there, but it's different. And AWS is something that is the cloud services for Amazon. They started within their company and they saw it's good, so let's offer that to other people. And in the beginning, they just had the capability to sell their own products and to deliver them. And now they're delivering all the products for, I think, like 80% of the other partnerships within Amazon. So there are so many other things that they've done from this very small store, right? It started from a store.
mhm,
And when
mhm.
you think about other companies, they have this core ability and they have one service, one main product, and they're not growing from there. And
Mhm.
this is placing them in risk because let's think about maybe Uber. They have the possibility to drive people and they have their food delivery, right? So right now, people are driving less, but they have the ability to use their food delivery much more. So this way, your company is much more stable. So for me, as I see growing your company with new products, and in my case, I usually talk about technological products, but it's not only that, will make you grow and be more stable in the market, actually.
You know, I couldn't agree with you more. And you're right, with technology, just because of the way the world moves so quickly today. And, you know, we hear this in so many conversations, the pace of business is, you know, moving from here to here now. And, you know, it's everything's so quicker, so much faster with really collapsing the borders, globalization, all of these things have really brought the speed of business to a pace that's unsurmountable in some cases at times.
Yeah.
But, you know, even outside of technology, I mean, for those of our audience that are in other industries, I mean, a really fun one I like to share is Ben and Jerry's cookie dough ice cream.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sure many people have heard the story, but for those who haven't, you know, it was my understanding that it was, you know, they had baked cookie dough for their ice cream sandwiches. And it just happened to be too soft or it didn't come out quite the way they wanted. And they just mixed it with ice cream. And now all of a sudden, this cookie dough ice cream is their bestseller. You know, it's
Yeah.
innovation can sometimes be a new product, it can be a pivot from an existing product, it can be, like in this case, collapsing two products into one. You know,
Yeah.
we really don't know. And that's the fun part. Innovation can show up in a lot of different ways. It could be
Yeah.
in the way that you package your product. You know, there's so many packages that we have, even I'm sure you do, Adi, at home, where you're like, this is such a struggle to get into this. Why don't
Yeah.
they do this differently? And I
Yeah.
mean, these are all of the triggers that organizations should be looking for when they start to think about
Sure.
what the easy way is.
Yeah. I think what you said about the struggle to open something, when you go and you really connect with your users, sometimes
Yeah.
the question is already there. So the fact that they are struggling and they find it less fun to use this product because they are struggling to open it, and there are so many products, everybody knows this product that they never want to open because it will mix their, like it will not open. And I have like tens of them right now. Just the fact that you're struggling makes this product less fun and you less prone to even use it or you think about buying it, because you can have another one which is much more easier and you will choose this one. And once you understand that doing innovation is not always starting from zero, you can utilize what you already have, and you have so many capabilities and the talents and knowledge and a beginning of some of your products, and you can make them much, much better if you
Yeah.
just listen and make it like more creative and out of the box.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there. And we could probably talk for an hour about, a ton of these really fun, innovations that we've had,
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
just,
A great example that I remember is, I think Colgate, if I'm not mistaken about the brand, they thought how would they make people consume more toothpaste. They wanted them to use more. And they thought maybe they'll tell them to brush their teeth more, so maybe they need to educate them about the importance of how much should they place on the toothbrush, so forth. And then one of the employees said, just make it bigger, make the hole in
whole bigger.
the hole
Yeah.
bigger. And
Yeah.
that's it. And
Yeah.
it's like spills more in, and people were very happy, not struggling,
To
in
get
the
more
old
out.
in the old packages you need to struggle, to take it out. Now
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's fun. I just place it and that's
It's
it.
easy. It's
Yeah.
easier.
And they consumed more because it's more paste.
Yeah, absolutely. So it serves both purposes.
Sure.
Um, so when so taking a step back and we're talking about innovation and the importance of it, when you look at the biggest barriers to innovation for organizations, I mean, I know there's a couple of slides that we actually wanted to share. So
Sure.
why don't I go ahead and do that? Gonna present here. You're able to see that okay, Adi?
Yeah. I know that
Perfect.
this is McKinsey report.
This
Yeah,
is
I
the
see.
McKinsey report. So this is a really interesting slide. So this
Yeah.
survey was conducted in April of last year. So it's really relevant.
Yeah. In the
Um,
beginning of the
and
of
at
the
the
of
very
the COVID.
beginning, and even at the very beginning, and that's what the interesting thing here is, isn't after the fact, but at the beginning, nearly 3 out of 4 executives surveyed agreed that changes brought by COVID will be a huge opportunity of growth across many industries, not just one.
Right.
Because one
Right.
would think it's probably technology or it's
Yeah.
maybe it's food, but it's across everything, you
Yeah.
know. Um, and another interesting slide, again, this is from McKinsey and Company as well, is again, the survey from my understanding is from April 2020. How equipped do executives feel to pursue innovation? I mean, the
Yeah.
impact, the impact on business is significant. So, I mean, 90% of them believe that the COVID crisis will fundamentally change the way they do business in 5 years. 85% are concerned that COVID crisis will have a lasting impact on the needs of their clients. 21%, only 21% feel they have the expertise and resources to commit to pursue new growth successfully. And that's often like what you're speaking to, Adi. And
Mhm.
2/3 believe that this is going to be, a changing, and I would even argue a defining moment in their executive leadership. So
Right.
those, organizations and leaders that are able to really get in front and, not only determine what is the path that you want your organization to take. Do you require a pivot? What do you need to have happen in order to not only survive but thrive, but then to compel your team? Because that's the other
Yeah.
challenge, and this is what makes leadership so challenging. Let's say you determine this is the way you want to go. Is your team equipped to be able to take that next step with you? Is it a brand new skill set that they now need to take on? Have you shifted from being a CPG company into a tech company, and do they have the skill set? So there's all these considerations. So the idea of innovation and pivoting and new ideas is simply stated. So it's something that's simple, but not oftentimes easy, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, it seems to be simple, but most leaders find it really hard to innovate in general. And when you think about this, what is needed from these leaders, they need to think about how can they survive with their current business model, with their core abilities, and have the vision. It's like it's a schizophrenia in a sense, because you need to be now and you need to be in the present in the same time. So you need to think what would be after COVID, what will be like 2, 3 years from now, what will be 5 years from now. And you need to invest the energy in both sides, and it's really hard. So usually most leaders are not happy with the results of their innovation. I think like 94% say it's not what they wanted it to be. And it's
Right.
because it's so hard to do. Because once you know something and you're measuring something very, very specific and you know how to do it, it's so hard for you to think about something which is unknown, unfamiliar, you don't know, you are not sure about. And it questions the way you manage yourself as a leader and your organization in general. So you need a different strategy in order to look at the future, and you need a different way of seeing things because it's the unknown. And even if you know right now what you know, you get to understand that it's you know right now. So right now I know this, but what is it like the same after what we know right now, like a crisis? It's not the same. So it demands from them so much more than that, right? And what we're seeing right now is the question is we started with why now is a good time to innovate, right? So why do you think that in the midst of a crisis in health and financial, economical crisis that everybody is confused and they don't know what to do, why would it be good for business? So it seems like many very successful it was a startups, but right now there are big companies started when it was in recession in times of crisis. And we think about why is it so? So most people would say that they're for VCs, they have less startups and they really invest in the right ones because they really consider who are the ones that they want to invest their money in. And they have more human capitals because some people are fired and there are more talents out there in the market and you can get them easily. Maybe you had to really compete with other companies that might not survive. And although we have less capital in VCs, maybe they're really cherry picking the right ones. And maybe we have more entrepreneurs because people were fired and they have the skills and the experience and they have the knowledge and they can build something new. So it's all true. But still, what really is, as I see, the main cause is the switching, that the
Mm-hmm.
clients are really ready to switch, is either two cases. One is that what they want right now is like a bit changed. So, for example, we want our soaps to clean us, but we want it to be like antibacterial. So we want more from our
Right.
products, so we can sell something different or sell something which was different in a different way to market it. So that's one switch. I don't want a regular soap, I want another soap. Okay, so that's one thing that they're prone to do, but they're not sure about it. The second switch would be that their current solution is broken. And
Right.
great example is like Zoom, right? So we
Right.
cannot use what we're doing right now. We might have like met in a certain place and we would have meet people in this event and we will mingle and maybe we'll drink coffee together afterwards, right? But Zoom is a great example to something that the solution was broken and therefore people switched. And
Yeah.
in these two types of switching, it's so easy to get to new clients and to offer them new solutions to the unmet needs that they currently have. And therefore, it seems that many companies were grown in these crisis states. Although it's like counterintuitive, this is what happens.
I absolutely agree. And we've spoken a lot about the leadership. We've spoken a lot about those that make the decisions, but oftentimes, and this is just taking a step back, a broader, even outside of COVID, is I see happening more often than not is the idea of innovation resonates with team members that I'm, say, for example, connecting with or I've had a conversation with, but then at some point it gets blocked. And it can get blocked, and it may be because the leadership team isn't bought in. It can happen because the idea of implementing something that's non-traditional, the approach that's not currently existing in the organization. So now all of a sudden it's okay, great, it's innovation, but now I need new processes. Now I need new procedures. And all of these things can occur as complicated. Now I need new metrics. How do I track this? So for all of these reasons, it can occur as not the easy way. And therefore, it can get blocked. And,
Yeah,
And even though there's like a proven track record now, you know, with even specific to open innovation and crowdsourcing, there's a proven track record. It's there, it clearly exists, but oftentimes change feels uncomfortable. And
It's
that's,
always
it's always
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable. So it's, if it's not uncomfortable, it's not a meaningful enough change. At least
Right.
that's how it occurs for me. So if it's like when you exercise, if, you know, if you're not breaking a sweat, it just didn't work for you. You really got to
Yeah.
work at it in order for it to make a difference. So, and
Yeah.
as we know, and we talked about this already, is um, change oftentimes occurs when it's too painful to not change, and the trigger can really be anything. And I think that's a fantastic segue into our next point, which is, you know, why is a crisis like COVID a good time to innovate? And Adi, I'm going to have you chime in, but
Yeah.
since the slides are already up, I wanted to just share another quick slide as to what history has taught us. And again, this is a McKinsey and Company data that you see here. Is, you know, history suggests that companies that invest in innovation through a crisis outperform their peers during the recovery. So look at the downturn of 2008 and look at where they are now. And it's so powerful to see. And hindsight is always 2020. You know, even when I come from the finance background, Black Monday, you know, imagine if I had put even just $1,000 in the market on that day, where I would be today. So it's so challenging, you know, when everybody is going in one direction, oftentimes in a panic, to actually, you know, be clear and go a different direction. And it's not always an easy thing to do. And that's where the distinction of powerful leadership really comes from. There are those that are visionaries, and then there are those that just, you know, how do they say, just get things done. And it's the visionary leaders that really drive their organizations so much more powerfully and exponentially. So
yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying, but let's go back to what we just saw. So if these leaders know it's going to affect their results, they know it's going to change, they know they don't have the capabilities, and they know it's going to be very challenging. If they know all of that, why are they not acting? Like,
right.
why most companies are not doing that? And I think the question could be fear, because we fear the unknown, we fear something which is new, we fear the change that we need to do, and all the energy and resources we need in order to do this change as a person and for our team and for our company as a whole. And they know it's going to be so hard. And what they're saying is stating explicitly that they don't have the tools. They don't think they have the tool sets, the skills, and the resources to do it. And I think that when you think about something like, I wouldn't judge any CEO right now. It's so frightening to think about it. Everything is changing. Nobody knows anything. So
Yeah.
you need to really go forward with your way of thinking when you don't have a clue. And it's like the unknown. So I wrote a book, Innovating Through Chaos. And at the beginning, I thought about one sentence that when the wind of change comes, some people build windmills, some people build walls. And
Mm.
this is what we see. We see companies building walls all the time,
Mm.
and they are not utilizing what they could do with this change. And if you're thinking about there is a storm outside, you could build a windmill instead of
Mm.
just closing everything and just freezing and waiting and hoping it will just go back to what it was, and it will not go back. Then, like, just imagine these people are thinking, how can they use this in order to get more? How can they take this crisis and turn it into a possibility or opportunity for them? And
Very
this
well said.
is the difference, right?
Very well said. I love the windmill example. So that's just so clear. You either get out in front of it and turn it into something, or you protect yourself from it. That's
Yeah.
amazing. And listen, I want to remind our audience that we shared with you guys at the start of the webinar that we will be offering you a way for you to easily leverage open innovation and get started at no cost. So make sure you stay tuned. I also want to remind you all that if you do have any questions that are showing up as Adi and I are going through this discussion, please don't hesitate. Just drop it into the chat, and we'll address them at the close of the webinar.
Sure. When I talk to people, I always mention that I come from Israel. So whoever knows from Israel, we always stop people in the middle of the sentence. So we're not that polite. So I'm really used to that. So just feel free.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So moving on to our next point is, now I've already touched on this a little bit, the idea of open innovation. So how could the open innovation help companies create innovative products? So how do you see that? Because innovation happens a lot of different ways, right? So open innovation and crowdsourcing is just one vehicle for innovation. So how do you see that supporting products?
I think that in general, if companies think that they know everything and their process is perfect and nothing needs to change, they will never do anything and never grow, actually. And we see in the last 10 years, companies opening up and understanding that there are so many great ideas and great resources, great skills that they can utilize outside. And it could be from their suppliers, it could be from their users, it could be from startups that they collaborate with, and it could be crowdsourcing. So they know that there are resources that they cannot really reach. And even if they do reach them, and let's say you're taking the most talented person and you're hiring him, it will not be the same as utilizing his talents within a project, within a scope of a task. Because in most cases, entrepreneurs and creative people, they are not the best employee for operation excellence. They're not doing the same things all the time because they're thinking differently and they're operating differently. And in many cases, companies find it hard to take these people in and leave them there. They usually leave if they don't have the impact they could have had. So these rebels, if you don't know how to utilize them and to give them the option to really express their talents within the company, and sometimes it's really hard for companies. It's like trying to tame wild horses for them, right? So they could either use these talents within the from the outside, or they could just try to take them in, and if they will not survive there in many cases, in a very traditional, stable, being a small cog in this machine. And therefore, when you think about what is the opportunities outside, they understand that they don't need to hold it it's not all secrets, it's not all we know all, it's not like we will not ask because then it will look weak or vulnerable. When you're asking people outside, you're just growing the potential of what you could reach. And you see companies doing innovation, open innovation, and crowdsourcing as one of the open innovation opportunities in order to really build this ecosystem, which is more than even if you think Amazon is like they are 600,000 people, if I'm not mistaken, still they could grow even further when you just think about what the feedbacks that they're getting from their clients, for example. It's much more than what they currently have. So any company could really leverage that opportunity.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. And, to your point, you make a really relevant point. Oftentimes there's organizations like Amazon, 600,000. I mean, the size of some of our organizations is so sizable. So when we think of innovation and crowdsourcing, it can be tapping into the creativity of the potentially 3 billion people connected to the World Wide Web, or you could do an internal closed challenge. So if you have a sizable company and, it's oftentimes a really simple risk mitigated approach to getting your feet wet into crowdsourcing is if you just did a closed challenge. So let's just say Amazon ran a closed challenge just with their team. So they would go to they would gamify it. And, maybe those individuals, not that there's anything about packing boxes, they're just packing boxes, but maybe this individual has a remarkable idea, but they don't have that vehicle to be able to share it. And, even if they do, the whole idea of the old school suggestion box or approach your manager, that kind of thing, that just it's not compelling. It just doesn't work. When you gamify it, when you say, here's a challenge we're hosting, and for those that present us with the best ideas, they get X, Y, Z, the energy that comes of that and the even in the shift in the culture of an organization, because now everyone feels like they matter. There's a power shift, you know, and
Sure.
the impact is beyond just innovation. Oftentimes it can impact the culture of an organization. And then
Yeah.
of course, as we know, open innovation is beyond, you know, if you wanted to just host a challenge. I mean, HeroX is a platform that allows you to crowdsource, you know, the entire world, or you can crowdsource just your team. It's a platform, and there's many crowdsourcing platforms that are available out there.
Yeah, you're right. I
Yeah.
think that when you think about what organizations in general are doing, even without thinking about innovation, they're trying to, in some cases, to flatten their organization and
Right.
not be too steep hierarchically. And I think the reason is because they know there is so much power within these people. What you're saying, like these people on the manufacturing floor, they know so much and they're not utilizing their talents and skills really well. So they might have hobbies or things that they're doing outside their role, and it could be very beneficial for the company. And
Yeah.
it's a way for them to use these talents that they currently have and for employees. And employees would not be that bored in doing the same old thing because they're using their talents more widely.
Their superpowers, their unique abilities, right? Yeah, 100% agreed with you there.
Sure, sure,
So, so now let's talk a little bit about the Invincible Innovation Method. And
sure.
I know there's a slide here. Here we go.
Yeah.
And how, you know, maybe how the idea of how HeroX could boost potentially this process with
Sure.
ideation or execution. So, what are your thoughts on that, Adi?
So let's see what is the process actually. So more or less, I took other things that they're out there, and there are lean startup and business model canvas and design thinking and design sprints, and I just matched them to the needs of my clients, which are like bigger companies. They have already clients. They need to challenge other things than a startup, so they cannot just take what's working for a small team of entrepreneurs or a small startup and use it. So what I did is just to match their needs. So let's say there is a change, and there always is changes, but right now it's like vast. There is a change in the market, in the clients, in your competitors, whatever. You need to really analyze first. That's the first stage. Analyze your strength as a company, the market, and clients. And we're doing this together, and then we're focusing. So I call it focus because you need to have great ideas, and you need to focus on the right one. And these great ideas could come from your team, for a small team, from your group, or from outside. And HeroX is great at that, bringing you all the new ideas from the outside that you might not think about, and your employees might think in a different aspect about things because they're part of your organization and the way that you do things. And somebody from the outside might give you an idea you never thought about, or see
Mm,
the things really differently. So this is the second stage. Then we make something. We need to build something. It could be an MVP, it could be only design, it could be a prototype, but we need to build something in order to test out what we're thinking and to make it tangible and test it out. So this make stage is actually preparing what we want to test. And we usually take the assumption, which is most riskiest assumption, and we want to test it first. Then we test it together in order to de-risk what we're doing and to really measure the impact of what you're doing. And then we decide maybe we should grow it, maybe we should pivot, maybe we should kill this initiative. It's not a good idea.
mm, mhm.
And then you could just execute it. And there you see many companies struggling to execute because they don't have the skills, they don't
Yeah.
have the right team, they don't have the right people to really do that. And in there, for sure, HeroX could help because they could bring this as a challenge to people, taking their talents into this brainstorming together and to executing together. And then they don't need to hire these new people, at least for the beginning. They have something that they could grow afterwards.
Yeah. Absolutely agree with you there. Um, and how long, now, this is the process that you've kind of compiled and put together
Yeah,
as you
yeah,
referenced. So, was this part of your book? Was this,
yeah.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
the book Innovating Through Chaos, it has two parts. One is more theoretical, what is going on right now, what has changed during COVID, what companies are doing, what could they do, and what is preventing them from doing so. And the other part is really this theory, how can you practically do something with it? So we go from one part to the other, and in each part I give like an exercise or something that they could just really go and do hands-on with their team, and to go one part of after the stages, one after the other. And just thinking about what could they do about the ideation, if they put a challenge on HeroX, it could be really big for them. Or if they have like really know what is the challenge and they know exactly what they want to do, maybe they can just execute it there. As I see it, this is a process that could take a minimum like 6 weeks. We can do it together, and afterwards it can be like a few months. But for me, not more than that, because you need to get a full cycle in order to have like
Yeah,
a small bet. You don't want it to take years because the resources and the energy is like it's just too much before you understand if it's a good idea or not. So you need to do it as fast as possible, and you know, being fast is so important these days.
I absolutely agree. And to your point, the whole idea of implementing an idea. So you want to implement and you decide you want to do this, but then how do you do it? And I think that's where the fit of HeroX with your this wonderfully laid out methodology comes in
Mhm.
play. Is it's a tool. It's a
Right.
tool that actually supports you in actually having one of these elements of this wonderful process that you have laid out to be able to easily achieve that. So
Sure. Sure.
perfect.
Yeah. So in the Invincible Innovation program, I take teams from different companies and we're doing that together. So it's not like training. It's really, it's kind of an incubator that we work
Yep.
on these things together. And if they want help in these stages, we can just do it through EuroX.
Gotcha. Perfect. And that really ties it kind of in together. And that actually brings us perfectly to our final question. So um, we're going to jump into the Q&A. I see there's like
Sure.
2 to 3 questions in there at this stage, but if anybody has any additional questions, please don't hesitate and drop them in there.
Yeah. One
Um,
more thing that I forgot to say, that
yes.
we're the Invincible Innovation and HeroX are partnering together, so
Yeah.
you can find out more about what I do and how to incorporate these two powers in HeroX website. So in their partner page, you can find more about Invincible Innovation.
And I'll do that. We'll
Mhm.
go into that screen share maybe in our final comments, and
Sure,
we can visually show the audience what
sure,
we're referring to.
sure.
But let's dive into our final question. So, what would be your number one tip for change makers?
I would say that you need to have what is called growth mindset. You need to change the
Yes.
way you see business, and you need to see it as a way to grow and not be afraid of it, because everybody's afraid. The question is not if you're afraid or not. The question is what you do while you're afraid. Will you just freeze and do nothing, or you decide to see how can you just use that in order to make yourself in a better position and the company in a better position? And for me, leaders that do that and they have vision and they are not afraid of the unknown, because in any innovation, in any change, there are aspects which are unknown, right? We don't know what's going to happen, but we're willing to try, and we're doing these small bets in order not to fail too big and too much. But when you are not afraid, you can reach higher heights. And when you are afraid, you're just saying, and then you might lose a competition.
Agreed. Agreed. And really, just to build on your point, I think as leaders, particularly during times like this of challenge, asking the right questions. It's knowing and understanding that you likely don't have the answers, because if you did have the answers, you would not be where we are today. So knowing
Right.
that you have to ask the questions and and ask the questions of those that are complementary to your strengths. That's really important, because
Right.
having that curse of knowledge where we all just yes each other because we all see things the same way isn't gonna get us a new idea. And that's the
Sure.
beauty and the essence actually of crowdsourcing. Over 70% of the most disruptive ideas have come from those outside of their area of expertise. And the reason that is, oftentimes I would argue, isn't because they're, a double PhD or any of these things. It's oftentimes because they're looking at something from a slightly different perspective than what you're used to. And that makes a big difference. Because if you continue to look at things the same way, then you're going to come up with the same result.
Yeah, I think it's
Right?
connected to what we could say it's connected to diversity too, because when you have people from diverse background and see things differently and they have different way of looking at the world, you can really do things differently. But when you have everyone is all the same, like there was a interview with Elon Musk, I think like a month ago, and he said that why companies are not growing, why they're not making their products better, and he said that it's like too much MBA leaders doing like exactly what they learned instead of like they're taking the same people, all the Ivy League people, just going to their companies and they're all the same and they're on the same like profile. And
Yep.
then if you want to think differently, you don't have anyone there, right?
No.
Everybody's thinking the same. And I think that I heard the same thing about when the CIA wanted to catch Bin Laden, so they all were the same, very, very smart men, Americans, and they could not think the way that he's thinking. Like he's so different than you, so you
Right.
cannot perceive what's on his mind. And the same could be like in any other challenge that you have in business. You need to think differently in order to solve it differently and
Yeah.
better.
Yeah. And you might not have that thought process, but that's okay. As a leader, you're not expected to know everything. As a leader, you're expected to be able to make the determination that now is the time where you need to lean into new ideas, and for you to then, source different areas, whether it's tapping into the crowd, whether it's going to your own team, because it's a large enough team trying to, get some of their ideas. Innovation really can live literally anywhere, but it has to
Right.
start with courage, and it has to start with the ability to be able to step back and ask the question and be able to be humble and say, I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. And who potentially might.
Right.
So, wonderful. So listen, that concludes, our kind of discussion part of what we were up to. We do have 2 to 3 questions that have been posed. So um, one is, you kind of already touched on this a little bit, but what's the relationship between HeroX and Invincible? Um,
Yeah. So first, we're partners. This is like first thing that we're doing together, and I'm so happy for that. And second, I think that we match because there are some cases that the companies know exactly what is the challenge and they know exactly where the people are going to do it. And they just go to HeroX and they open a challenge. It's really easy. In other cases, they are not really sure and they need more escort, they need guidance on the way in order to do the process and to have touch points with HeroX on the way. And this is how Invincible Innovation can help you with that in that cases.
Perfect. Very well said. And, I'll just add to that a little bit. So with HeroX, I've mentioned that we're the social network for innovation. So there's a lot of crowdsourcing platforms that are out there. What makes us distinct is we're the only place that you can build, grow, and curate your crowd. So whether you use the HeroX backend or whether you use different platform backend, we have nothing about it. It's much like Facebook or LinkedIn. You can post something on LinkedIn, but when you click on it, it can click back through to YouTube. So it's much the same mentality. And as a part of that, we are the aggregator of, innovation and open innovation. And as a part of that, powerful partners such as Adi, our thought leaders in the space and those that we've reached out to then develop these wonderful partnerships to then really evangelize a lot of this thought, this thinking, and as you've already mentioned, Adi, it's complementary to your methodology. You've written a book on it. And the book that you've written, there's elements of that book. It may as well be custom made for HeroX because there is such a wonderful complementary strength with what it is that we're up to. So the methodology versus how to actually get it done, the delivery of it.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
totally agree.
there's one other question, and I think this is more for a HeroX question. What kinds of challenges are run on HeroX? It's helpful to look at examples. Okay, yeah, great question. Literally anything. So, there's some platforms out there that are specific to data science, some platforms out there that are specific to, design, graphic design. With HeroX, we really lean into the idea that your best and most creative ideas could live anywhere and anybody could have it. So the crowd is completely uncredentialized. So you can host a challenge for $100. You can host a challenge for, like Lockheed Martin for over $1 million. You could host a challenge, arguably fun one, if you're a mom to be and you wanted to, crowdsource your child's name, you could do that as well. There's nothing to prevent you from crowdsourcing literally anything, from the next best technology to software to gathering great ideas from the crowd. There's no minimum prize amount. There's no maximum prize amount. It can even be in kind. So like in case of Adi, let's say she hosts a challenge, but the prize might be you get a copy of my book. So it doesn't have to be cash. And if you are curious, you just go onto the website, you just look at all the different challenges that we have there. You can filter it by industry, and hopefully you get inspired. So I think those are all the questions that we received, Adi. So as promised, I'm going to come back to you for a final comment. And if there's anything that you want to share with our audience, any actionables, anything that you want them to run with.
Sure. So I would say that once you know what is the potential, you just need to act upon it. Like, I really believe that, like from Israel, people are, when we're thinking about design thinking, I always say they're thinking less, doing more. Like, this is Israel. We're doing so much more. And everything we do it really fast and with lots of passion. And I really believe in that. So once you want to execute something, you just reach out and you say, okay, we know it's changing. We know we need to do something. We know we don't exactly know what are the talents, what are the skills, what is the process even. Just reach out and we can do it together. We can just go from what has changed to something that is tangible, to show the management, to show C-level, to show other people that you could do much more with what you have. And once you have this additional extra power of HeroX, you can do even much more, and you don't need to get so much resources upfront, and you don't need to think about it too much. You can just start with it and then try it out, because innovation is all about trying things. It's not complete. Nobody could tell you exactly how to build a successful product, and that's why, because this is why it's hard, because nobody knows. So what you need to do is to have these small bets, small tests again and again, and you just start with it, and you have a portfolio of initiatives, and then one of them will surely grow if you do it the right way.
Well said. Perfectly said, in fact. So that's wonderful. So I guess on my end, just a final thought would be, just everything that we've talked about today. My hope and Adi's hope is that, if nothing else, that we've really inspired you to, perhaps think a little bit outside of the box, inspired you to really get that COVID, although is a time of chaos, much like Adi's book. And if you guys want a copy of it, in our follow-up email, we'll make sure we include the title so you guys can reference it. But during chaos is opportunity. I promise you that there is opportunity in the middle of all of this chaos. So do not be the individual that looks back in the rearview mirror going, oh my goodness, I should have. Now is the time where you sit back and you be courageous. You go to your team, you ask the right questions. If you're curious on what innovation looks like and how you could innovate, even if you don't even know where to begin, you could host a challenge on HeroX, just, asking the question, this is the type of organization that I am. These are the things that I offer. What would make you come to me? What should I do differently? Is there a new product? What's something that I can do that would make you come to my site and make you have a conversation with me? Obviously, that's very loosely said. Our challenge designers would, frame that much more articulately, but you could literally just start with figuring out what those ideas are. So I'm gonna, there's such a power to visuals. So if you want to get started, you simply go to herox.com/solutions. So I promised at the start of our webinar that we were going to give you some tools to get you started at no cost. You go onto this site here and it literally, you get a free demo and you can see all of the basics of how to transform your innovation strategy. You come up with an idea, how you act on it, gives you a ton of detail and information. Once you register onto HeroX, then at that point, this page will allow you to actually launch challenge. So you could just literally go here and you could launch it. And instead of going to this page, it would actually take you to the page where you can get started with a challenge. And you can get started at no cost. So you can go, you can play around. We're not going to invoice you. It's not until you actually decide, okay, this is perfect, I want to launch it. That's the only time that we're going to invoice you. Otherwise, feel free to go in, tap into all the resources on HeroX.com, learn, get informed, and just tap into all of the different areas that you see in there to learn more information. Adi had mentioned that there is a partners page. You can also go on to HeroX /Invincible Innovations /about, and you can see all of the information, all of the details that Adi has shared today. And everything will link through to some of the details that she's spoken about, gives you details about who she is, phenomenal success she's had, the wonderful book that she's written, all of the great details, and all of the different ways that she can create value for you as an organization and or as a leader. We're also going to offer you a bonus. In our follow-up email, we're going to give you a link to the Thrive Quotient. About all of the conversation that we've had today. Are you curious as to what your innovation readiness actually is? How innovative is your organization? So we actually developed the Thrive Quotient, which during this time of COVID, we're offering at no cost. So it's our way of kind of supporting the citizens of the world and the organizations today. So in the follow-up email, you will also get a link to this. And it's a 10-minute test. You take it, we invite you to then share it with your team and they can then take it. And then you compare the results. So for those organizations that think that they're innovative, ironically, oftentimes they're not as innovative as they think. And the ones that feel that they're not, ironically, are the ones that actually score higher. So it's a really powerful tool, if nothing else, but to just simply, start the conversation and the dialogue today. So that brings us to the close of our webinar today. Adi, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your really busy schedule. I know it's in your evening, so we're cutting into your family and your dinner time for participating in our discussion, offering your valuable insights. Again,
it's been a pleasure talking to you, Kal. It's always fun.
It's such a pleasure. It's such a wonderful synergy that we've got going on here. For our listeners, Adi and I have shared a fair bit of information. We will be sending you a follow-up email. In that email, you will get a link to the recording to this discussion, along with these pages that we've shared with you, and a link to the Thrive Quotient. So watch for that. If you need to reach out, you can reach out to myself or Adi. We're both on LinkedIn. You will also have our contact information within the follow-up email as well. And with that, thank you so very much to the audience for tuning in, and depending where you are in this big, beautiful world, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening. Thank you so very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.